Hi, I'm Ashley, and 1 year ago today, I had a breast reduction. Here's my road to reduction. So, let me start by talking about why I'm making this podcast. I wanted to make a podcast about my breast reduction journey to help others who are going through this, because during my process, I felt very isolated at times. I felt like no one else was going through what I was going through. And I want to make sure that anyone who is going into this surgery does not feel that way, that you have some support. So I also want to make this podcast because I wanted to help get rid of the cosmetic stigma and view that a lot of people have about a breast reduction. This is a medically necessary surgery that is helping women with health problems. This is not typically done just for cosmetic. Yes, there are some who do it that way as well. But that doesn't mean that there should be a stigma about it. And I found during my preparation and lead into surgery that viewpoint was extremely hurtful to me. That I was getting this done because of how I looked or how I wanted to look. And that was not the case at all for me. I actually didn't want this surgery because I was happy with my body. And I needed this surgery because my body was not happy with itself. So I wanted to make this as a support, as a community, hopefully, where we can help people who are going through breast reductions and reach out to each other and answer questions and just be another support as someone faces something major in their life, because this was a major event in my life. So who am I? Why am I even making this, right? My name is Ashley. I'm 30 years old. I live in New England. I am making this because all of my life, from the moment I hit puberty on, I had large breasts and I dealt with the things that happen with that. The back pain, the shoulder pain, the wrong size bras, the nothing ever fits in the store. I gave up a lot for them, and I didn't realize how much I had until after surgery, but I gave up running and I gave up sports because it was just too painful for me. I became very sedimentary in my life because activities were exhausting. They took a lot out when you're carrying that much weight. So I wanted to talk through the lead up to my surgery, how it was decided that I need it today, and I want to talk about where I am 1 year later, and then in later podcasts, I want to take you through my whole journey where hopefully you'll find some parallels or you'll get some questions answered, and it will just be a useful resource for you. So my journey probably really started, my mom loves to tell this story, when I was 5 and we were at a family gathering and I looked around to all my family and then asked my mom, "Mom, when am I gonna get big boobies?" Because this was an inheritance in my family. We were larger women. And so I hit puberty, and overnight I went from nothing to a C cup, which was overwhelming for a 13-year-old. And then as I continued to get older and develop, I got to college, thought I was a double D for a while, spent a lot of my life thinking I was a double D, until I was formally sized, I hate to say this, by a professional at the age of, 28, and, no, I was an I. I was definitely an I, which you cannot buy in stores. Unless they're specialty stores, you are never going to find a bra at Victoria's Secrets or Walmart. So it was a lot of frustration because you have to buy them and get them mailed to you. And then if they don't fit, you have to send them back. So on top of never being able to find clothes that fit right because the rest of my body is not as large as my breasts were, and never being able to find a bra, I hated shopping. There's just all those little things in life that you're just like, well, this is part of being a larger breasted woman and it's fine. I'll get over it, whatever. So I realized one day, that my 60-year-old grandmother was, 60-ish-year-old grandmother, was going up the stairs better than I was. And I'd been having some hip issues, and so I went to my doctor and got a referral to physical therapy, PT. And went to PT, and we spent a long time working on these issues. So I started PT, and first it was on my hip. And once we got my hips all set, then my low back was causing problems. And once it was low back, it was the middle of my back. And then it was my upper back. And then it was my back and shoulders. We just kept chasing this problem upwards. We spent about 2.5 years chasing this problem. And so I went to PT one day. It was a completely normal, nothing going on day. And she's working on my back in between my shoulders, called your thoracic spine. And she just calmly and normally says, "Do you know your spine is arching when it's supposed to be curving?" And that was like, what? What's going on? And she said, "Your back is going the exact opposite way that it's supposed to. That's where our issue is. We found it." And the fact that she was just so normal and calm about this was a bit upsetting to me, because this is a huge issue, clearly. And so I asked her, I said, "What would be causing this?" I said, "Is it the weight I carry around every day?" And she said, "It probably is. That probably is a huge factor in it, but we're going to work on strengthening the muscles, because that's also part of the problem." And so we finished our session, and I went home that night, and I couldn't get that off my mind, because that was a huge deal. Your back is not supposed to do the opposite thing it's meant to do. And so I went to bed that night, and I tossed and I turned and I thought, and I couldn't stop thinking about this. And I thought back to when I was in college. I was around 19. I'd come home for a break, and my father had mentioned that one of his coworkers' wives was getting a breast reduction, and that it would be fully covered by his insurance, and that I could get one too. Now, at 19, I really liked the attention that I got from large breasts. I was really content with my body. I wasn't too far into the pain phase of my life. I was still running and doing other exercises. So I said, yeah, someday when it's harming my body, I'll do that. But I just totally blew it off at 19. So as I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking about that, I was like, okay, I kind of drew a line in the sand when I said that comment. You know, like, when my breasts are hurting my body, I said I'd get the surgery, and clearly they're hurting my body. So I made the decision that I would call my doctor to get in and talk about breast reduction and the possibilities for me and how to go about that, because I have no idea at the time. And then I rolled over and promptly fell asleep. So when I woke up the next morning, I knew that was the right decision, because I'd been able to sleep on it. And I called my doctor that day, got an appointment, got in relatively quick, and started this whole journey, which will be a topic of another podcast. So I was getting this for medical need. My back was not doing the correct thing, and it was not going to change unless I could allow it to change. I could do all the exercises in the world to make those muscles stronger, but they're still fighting gravity and the weight I was carrying around daily. So I knew that going into this surgery, I didn't want it. I knew that I needed it. I knew that this was going to be a rough road. And as we'll discuss later on, I did end up going to therapy for the surgery and being ready for the surgery. So I plan to, as we continue this podcast, talk about that whole therapy, the referral process, dealing with insurance, how do you pick a doctor, what are the pre-appointments like, what is the surgery like, what about recovery. I plan to go into each step, but I want to give them each their own episode so we really can dig into it. I don't want to make the introduction podcast too long. So 1 year later, here I am making this podcast, telling the world about my breast reduction, which feels a little awkward at times. But I think it needs to be shared. I don't think we talk about this enough. I don't think we encourage people to get what they need for their bodies enough. And I don't think that the stigma of it being a cosmetic surgery will stick around if we start talking about the medical necessity of it. And so 1 year later, here I am. I'm pain-free. I realized about 3 weeks after my surgery, when I had gotten over the surgery pain, that my back pain I'd had daily 4 years was gone, just out of the blue, gone. I realized that I had a lot more range of motion. I realized that my asthma was not as bad as it had been because there was not as much weight pressing on my lungs as there had been. I'm still in physical therapy a year later, strengthening up those back muscles. We are almost done. Thoracic spine is looking great now, and we are working on the top of my shoulders and neck. And once that is fixed and they're strong, I will be good. I'll be excused from physical therapy. So it will be weird not to go to physical therapy after almost 4 years of it. And so I've started in a gym. I've started running again. I didn't realize how much I had truly missed running until I could do it pain-free. I've started being more active. I've set a goal of completing a Spartan race with one of my best friends. So life is looking good. And I just enjoy the fact, and I'm just so thankful for the fact, that every single day I'm pain-free now. I'm not in the crippling pain that I was when I got home. I would get home at the end of my workday and I would take a hot shower or a hot bath, and then I'd lay on the couch because I ached every single day. I didn't want to go out and do a lot of things because it was not comfortable for me, because it was causing my body to work so hard and to have so much pain constantly. So I'm enjoying the fact that I don't have that, and I'm free to move, and I can do yoga, and I can run, and I can do all these exciting things now. And I'm very thankful for this surgery. I am very thankful how much it's changed my life, and I'm thankful that I got put in a position where I had to get it done, because I think had it been a choice, a cosmetic choice, I never would have. Because no one wants to go through surgery, and no one wants to deal with the pain and chaos of that if they don't have to, and I was so intensely okay with how I looked before, and I am now as well. I am very happy with my body and how I look now, which is also part of the journey we're going to talk about in the podcast, because I had some huge fears about body identity and how I would feel with that after. So I'm hoping that this will just be a great little introduction to my journey. I'm planning to do this podcast either weekly or bi-weekly, depending on how crazy work life gets. And I just want to start building a community of people who are there to support each other through this. And I want to be a resource for you if you have questions or concerns, or you just need someone to listen because you feel so isolated and no one knows what you're going through. Because I relate, I had those moments where I felt that way. So I did make an email account if you want to reach out to me with questions, with things you want to see quicker in the podcast, because that's where you're at. It's roadtoreductionpodcast@gmail.com. And I'm planning on hopefully getting better at my editing and turning this into a visual podcast as well on YouTube, so I can show you pictures. And I'm hoping to build a community together on a blog, and really just get us talking and together on this, because this is a major medical event in your life, and it is scary. It can be completely terrifying and overwhelming, but it's also going to make you healthier. It's going to make you happier. This is what you need to be doing for yourself, and you can't let anyone talk you out of that. So again, I am Ashley. I got a reduction 1 year ago. And thank you for joining on my journey to the road to reduction. Intro music is Like Music, CDK Mix by CDK, copyright 2013, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license.